get through this meeting. So with that, can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Beagle.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Present.
Councilmember Dermott.
Present.
Councilmember Gottschalk.
Here.
Councilmember Brennan Fox. Here. Councilmember Sharp is excused. Councilmember Snyder.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda as presented tonight. City Manager.
Mayor, I have no changes or additions.
Assistant City Manager.
I have none, sir.
Any from the dais? I see none. We'll move on to approval of minutes. We got 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. The first one is the special City Council meeting minutes of August 13, 2024. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the special City Council meeting minutes of August 13, 2024. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second set of minutes tonight is from the regular City Council meeting scheduled for August 13, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Or any discussion? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the regular City Council meeting minutes of August 13, 2024. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence, we got 2 items of correspondence tonight. One is the notice of hearing for the electric customers of DTE Electric Company, case number U-21662, and Steve Hartman's resignation letter from the DDA. City Manager's reports, departmental reports of 2024. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda will be considered routine by the City Council and will be acted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion? So moved. Support. Thank you. I got a motion and a support to approve the consent agenda as presented tonight. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moves to the first call to the public. I'll read those rules. They are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence, and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless time is extended by a vote of the majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close first call to the public. Moving on, unfinished business. We have no unfinished items, business items, so we'll move on to new business number 1, which is a recommendation to approve a preliminary site condominium plan from Pulte Homes of Michigan LLC for the development of 43 single-family residential lots on a 13.46 acre parcel zone BCA low intensity at 3015 West Maple. Parcel identification number 17-32-176-017 with conditions as recommended by the Planning Commission. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
Very good. Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will kick off the introduction to this item, but I'd also like to make note that I have Mateo Pasalacqua, our planning consultant with Carlisle Ortman Associates here. We also have the applicants in the audience to answer any questions or talk about their project. The summary of this project is this is one of the remaining acreage parcels in the Village Center area district. You may recall a year or so ago, the Planning Commission City Council subdivided the Village Center area zoning district into 3 distinct zoning districts. This particular one being the low intensity area, VCA-LI. The intent of that district is for a plan, I'll say somewhat similar to this, right, for detached single family homes on, in this particular project, 5,500 square foot lots. I'll pass it to Mr. Pasalacqua to walk through the details, But in terms of process, the planning commission did review the preliminary site condominium plan and recommended with conditions that are included in their August 5th meeting minutes that are included in your agenda packet. In terms of process, then it comes to city council for preliminary plan approval. If you all were to approve this with the same conditions as planning commission offered, the next step for them would be final site condominium plan review with planning commission where they would iron out details, and then final site condominium plan review with city council again. With that in mind, I'll pass it over to Mr. Pasalakwa.
Good evening, Mateo Pasalakwa, Carlisle Wortman Associates. We're the planning consultant for the city. So as Assistant Manager Benson had mentioned, this is a site that's looking to develop about 43 single-family condominium unit homes. The site is it's zoned to low intensity, which kind of calls for this type of use. It would raise the existing structures on the site, and the lots themselves would be about 5,500 square feet. As Assistant Manager Benson had stated, there's a preliminary and final review process that both goes through PC and City Council. So the initial review that we wrote, it had a very long list of items to be addressed at the end, but that was really just because your zoning ordinance is set up for a kind of one and done review process. There really isn't half now, half later. So we put them through just a full review, but the majority of the items there are semantic or technical in nature. Some of the larger items that came up for discussion with the Planning Commission and the applicant was that the site is currently proposed to be clear cut in order to accommodate the development. There were some landscaping waivers that were necessary for the development that were discussed with the Planning Commission. We also talked about the different ways in which the development would connect to its neighboring uses, that being an existing single-family condo development to the west, Gunnar Mittal Park to the east, and then the airline trail to the south. The site is proposed to connect to those areas, but we want to make sure that those connections are spelled out with direction and next steps in master deeds or bylaws, or whatever legal structure we need to make sure is present to kind of guide us through making sure those connections happen. So after review and conversation with the Planning Commission, again, we did get to a conditional approval. The Planning Commission was agreeable to allowing a landscape buffer waiver on all sides, with the exception of the north side that butts up against the 4 or 5 single homes that also have frontage to West Maple. A buffer or a landscape waiver that would allow for just uniform landscaping at the site's entrance. Just the requirements, the way they're worded, anticipate more road frontage than what the site actually had, so it would kind of be a jumbled mess. There's another requirement that the Planning Commission determine whether mountable curbs are acceptable. The Planning Commission said that they did think that they were acceptable. And there was just some conversation back and forth with the applicant about the architectural styling of the homes. It's a very important piece of the zoning district that the development would be in. But again, the Planning Commission and the applicant came to agreement on some conditions where just wanting to see some more information about materials that were being used and meeting some calculation requirements for window coverage and things of that nature for the units.
Do you have any questions? Councilmember Brown?
Thank you for the explanation, I appreciate that. A couple questions. The first actually just came up when we were talking, but when you're talking about the buffers, but you're not recommending a buffer to where the existing homes already are. Why is that?
So my apologies if I misspoke. That's the area where we are recommending the buffer,
Okay.
and the applicant was agreeable to that.
The other buffers are, one is the ITC power lines, so there is a pretty significant width between that and the next development to the west. And then to the south is the airline trail, which in and of itself with its tree lines and whatnot kind of serve as a buffer. And then to the east, with Gunnar Mittal Park, also pretty heavily wooded, so traditional buffer requirements wouldn't necessarily make sense.
The conversation came from the existing homes. The site's kind of it's kind of like a short, fat L. But with the houses that are already there, there is actually a natural buffer there. But if those lots were ever consolidated and developed into something, then we're kind of left with those lots could get clear cut and we don't have our natural buffer. The other sites contain natural buffers where the street trees that are installed per the ordinance will buffer along the ITC side.
And then trees that, I hate to say junk trees, but the trees that aren't worth saving, but the trees that are significant size, I know it's a lot more work for the developer and the builder, but I would rather see them try to incorporate those larger trees into the site. I think it would make for a very better product. It would look much nicer aesthetically. So I think I'm not against that. Then my other question on the map, it showed the back, looked like the back of the site where it would be the side. But anyway, there was a couple spots, or at least one, that looked like it was an entrance to either the park or the trail. Must have been the park.
They're both actually. There are road stubs proposed both for a future connection to Gunamatala Park, but then also to Theodore, which is the road to the development adjacent on the other side of the ITC lines.
Okay, so is that proposed to be some type of a pathway, or can you explain what that?
The driveway across connecting to Theodore would be a road, would be an actual vehicular connection. The width for the stub on the east side of Gunamatala would also be a road width. So the city, essentially what that does is that offers the opportunity to make a connection to Gunamatala at some point in the future, should the city ever want to do that. The city is under no obligation to do so, but from a planning perspective, it makes sense to leave the opportunity in case it makes sense to do so, or there's a desire to do so at some point.
So until it would make sense, or there was a desire, would that be like at one of those emergency type, where it would have the, be blocked across there?
Essentially, yes.
Okay,
The applicant maybe could speak better to what kind of buffer would be put there, but in function, it would just be trees.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike Knowles with the, the microphone is dead.
Just a
Mike-
prop.
That's right. Mike Knowles with the Umler Group, 49287 West Road in Wixom. Yeah, it would just be a stub street that just ends. You've seen those in several different developments. You know, there's a woods there, so there'll be woods there. Probably not a barricade unless it was required, just because they don't look nice. Yeah, it'd be a stub street for the connection to the park in the future, and the one going to the west would connect to the existing stub street in the existing neighborhood to the west.
Okay.
And then also there's one to the south that's just a walking trail that goes to the rail trail.
Okay. And then my last question is the,
I have that effect on
well, you might have to come back to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Beerman?
Thank you. I guess my question is kind of on that same topic of that stub street. Have we talked with the Parks and Rec Department to see if they actually want to, in the future, have a connection there?
Yes, that is, it's contemplated in the most recent Parks and Recreation Master Plan as well.
I just would hate to put that there and it never be connected to anything. It kind of looks like at the other side of the downtown development where the stub street ends by the church and doesn't connect to the church. It just looks like it was really poorly done because it never connected. And so, I mean, if the plan is going to connect, then hopefully we see it connect. If it's not going to ever connect, then I would say just leave that out and make one of the lots a little bit bigger.
I will say there's not a specific plan, I believe in the 10-year capital plan to do that. However, on the flip side, it is, and I'll defer to Mateo a little bit maybe on a best practice standpoint, but specifically in a neighborhood like the VCA where it is intended to be interconnected, I would say it's strongly recommended to leave yourself that option. You may in the future decide that maybe it's a pedestrian connection or whatever a current or future city council may want. The alternative is it's much harder to get a space back or to make a connection later. So it's easier to plan for them up front and never need it as opposed to not make a connection and then you can never get it.
So are we gonna make sure that if we wanna do the connection in the future, we can do it? Because my understanding is like that connection to the church, someone doesn't want that connection, so that's why it's never been made and it just looks poor.
Well, part of that particular connection you're talking about is also sort of preparing for potential future development. We don't know what the future of that particular site might be. So you're right, it might take 20, 30 years, but let's say the church did move or they decided to sell their property or something happened. Again, it makes more sense to have the opportunity to then connect and have the road network within the neighborhood than to not be able to get it after the fact.
Okay.
If it,
Then I would say this, I mean, at least make it look nice, because I feel like that one by the church just doesn't look nice and is overgrown. And I mean, if you said barricades are ugly, find something, some trees or something to make it look nice.
Yeah, we've done that on other sites too, where we had stub streets and we wanted them to look nice, where we put landscaping at the end of it. We did one in Farmington 2 years ago, and it was a similar situation, except it was private property that it went to. And Farmington wanted to be able to plan for those pieces to be consolidated at some point in the future and go through. So we planted it with some trees and some bushes and stuff to make it look nice, and then had the requirement of the HOA would relocate that landscaping whenever that got developed, so.
And I appreciate this development, much happier than previous ones we've seen for this
Right.
piece of property, so.
Yeah, it's a challenging piece of property, but I think it's a nice looking plan.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Riznick?
Thank you. I think two of my questions already got answered through the one conversation. There was an open space between lots 32 and 33 to the east. Is that planned to have some sort of non-motorized access then into Glenarm McDonald?
Let me take a quick.
Yes.
No.
Oh, yeah, that is the gas line, that open space is the gas line, right, the gas line in there. We're permitted to cross it, but yeah, it's.
Right. And just a comment, I noticed there were no branches underneath the,
Yeah, so Pulte is targeting young families in this particular thing. They do all different kinds of product. In fact, Wixom provides the sewer service for the new Del Webb site, which is another Pulte site, active adult site. So they do have a wide range of product offerings, and they thought that this would be a good spot for young families right in the middle of the VCA, and it would probably be good, to invigorate some life in the downtown area for us as well.
there's been a lot of comment from some of the previous developments that have come forth to us about the accommodation of the retirement boomers and wanting ranches and single level with master suites on the first floor. So I was curious that none were included in this.
It's interesting about ranches. It comes up all the time. So I've been doing this for about 35 years with various different developers and engineers. And our salespeople would always come to us and say, everyone's asking for a ranch. We really should offer a ranch. And back when I was at Toll Brothers, we had a bunch of ranches in the bag. And it's like, okay, let's offer a ranch. And as soon as we put it up for sale, we didn't sell any of them. And the reason is because you're taking the cheapest square footage, the upstairs. So you still gotta have a roof, still gotta have a foundation, still gotta have a kitchen, still gotta have a furnace, still have all of the mechanics of the house. And upstairs, it's just walls and windows, right? So you take that away, and your price per square foot still costs the same because you still have to buy all of those mechanical systems. So your price per square foot plummets. And so people are like, I don't wanna pay more per square foot to get into the ranch, and so they'll take the two-story, use it as a den, use it as a guest room, use it as an office, that type of thing. So I've learned over the years to be careful what people ask for is not necessarily what they're gonna buy.
Well, you're still a young guy, so that makes sense. Okay, great. Very much in favor of this development. It's great that that's going to move forward, and hopefully it also helps some of the other surrounding developments get completed as well. So
Thank you for your comments, Assistant Mayor.
Councilmember Gatchell?
Thank you. I know one thing, just clerical, I guess, that I noticed was the fire department had recommended denial because of, it looked like fire hydrant placement or something like that. Is that something that's already been adjusted or?
Well, we're in a unique position just because this is gonna go through preliminary and final. So we'll be looking for that when they resubmit it final.
So they'll have the opportunity to address that comment, they will have to
Yeah.
with your final.
This comes back to city council for final, correct?
Yeah, planning, they'll go to planning next for the final, go through that process, and then they'll be in front of you. But they will not make it to planning final if that item has not been addressed.
Okay. On the southern string, lots 36 through 43, abutting the airline trail, is there going to be any sort of fencing or screening between the backyards of those lots and the airline trail? Or will it just be open air?
Yeah, so it's proposed is to be open. There is a rear yard storm necessary at the back of those lots. So we will be excavating through there to put a rear yard storm in there. It won't preclude homeowners from landscaping in their yard, so I imagine that over time you will see that type of thing. And we are, meeting all the tree replacement and landscape requirements for the site.
With respect to like man-made objects though, I know we're in preliminary, but would your like master deed bylaws allow someone to put up fencing?
Typically, yes. Master deed and bylaws do allow people to put fencing in their rear yard if they have a dog or that type of thing, unless it's precluded by a municipality. It's not really a hot button for a builder or a developer. So it's absolutely something that if the city council was opposed to having any fencing in that area or wanted some fencing in that area, it's something that we could absolutely work out during the final process. And 6 to 1, half a dozen of it.
Yeah, it's just something that came to mind because I know closer to back, like Indian Wells, you have some chain link, some like wood privacy, and it's kind of a mix of what you can see through and what you can't. But I don't want to get to a point where we have this nice trail and it's just all white PVC fence like is in Robertson Brothers running the extent of that. And that's going to be a good stretch if these were going to be, what, 50 feet wide, I think was the proposal. So that's going to be a good chunk of space that I just want to make sure that
55.
yeah, we keep it natural if we can as that goes through the review process. And then just kind of joining the comments about the stub street, I'm not a fan. I wish we could look at another way to kind of rearrange lots 37 and 36 there. Driving through neighborhoods as a realtor, every time I come across one of these stub streets, I agree that the barricades have just become a trash collection point. Everything that fell out of a garbage can gets blown into the curb or the barricade that's there, and no one ever cleans it up. But I don't know that I foresee us putting in like a road connection to Gunner Metalla. You're literally abutting the airline trail. You can walk or bike if you want, or you can just drive down Maple. You're not that far away. I don't know why we would need this neighborhood to specifically have its own connection to the park. I can appreciate like interconnectedness, but that is not a small stretch looking at the satellite to connect the two spots. And I think many years ago when this site actually came up, there was kind of asinine proposal to trade and swap things, and it became my understanding that that was a pretty wet area back there as well, so I don't know that we are gonna want to go through the expense of trying to put a motorized roadway through there. So if there is a way to get that sorted out and kind of readjust, I wish like gas line didn't run through the middle of all those, because that's eating up 3 lots, but yeah, just overall, I wish that, or I hope that there's another way to figure that out, because I don't want to see us stuck there. Thank you.
Anybody else? And I just want to echo everybody's comments on the stub road too. I'm not a big favor of that. I don't think that we would want to interest in the park there. It's also going to detour. People are going to cut through the subdivision and go to the park and things like that, and I don't think that's really what they want either. So if we could try to figure out a way to eliminate that stub road when it comes back to us. be appreciated. And with that, I see no further questions, so I have a
Mayor, just as a point of clarification, the stub you're referring to is only the stub that would connect to Gunnar Metallo Park.
Yes.
In front of
Not-
36.
Correct, not the stub that would connect to the
Yeah,
neighboring, okay.
yeah, to the park.
Thank you.
All right, and I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to approve a preliminary site condominium plan for Pulte Homes of Michigan LLC for the development of 43 single-family residential lots on a 13.46 acre parcel of land, zone VCA, low intensity, at 3015 West Maple, parcel identification number 17-32-176-017, with conditions as recommended by the planning commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, new business number 2 is a consideration of the planning commission recommendation to introduce a mandatory ordinance to conditionally rezone 7.2 acres of the property located at 31201 Old Wixom Road, parcel identification number 22-06-200-035 from Village Center Area Core to Village Center Area Transitional with conditions from the applicant as proposed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Again, Mr. Benson?
Thank you, Mayor. Another proposed project in the Village Center area, a little bit more complicated methodology for getting there. So the item in front of you tonight is primarily and specifically related to property owners' interest in taking a portion of their 10-acre property and using it for like a site condominium townhouse project. I'll defer to the applicants to kind of talk about their logic of changing the zoning there, but I will give just a little bit of background, and then I will pass it over to Mr. Passalacqua about some of the kind of the details of the project. But I do want to make the note on the front side that the consideration in front of you tonight is not to approve the development specifically. Now, they are, in this conditional rezoning, they've proposed conditions that will relatively lock them into use parameters, but there are opportunities to, continue looking at, the layout or the composition, and the applicant may have, some suggested or some potential changes of their own by the time that they come back through for site condominium review, as we just did in new business. So I just want to make that kind of preface there. But one of the pieces, just to point this out, there is an existing consent judgment underneath this property. The BP gas station and this 10-acre parcel used to be one, and then there was a consent judgment that covered both. In that consent judgment, it was contemplated to split the property, and the split off portion that is now 31201 Old Wixom, it was listed in the agenda item, but it was only referenced to say that it would be developed in full compliance with the zoning ordinance governing development on the land. At the time, it was B2. Since '97, the city rezoned it to VCA and then rezoned it again to VCA Core as a part of the split up of the VCA zoning district in 2023. So in this particular case, they approached us with their desire to look at a residential project as opposed to an entirely village center area core, which would essentially limit you. Your only residential option is mixed use on top of, on second story or above of mixed use buildings. So there's not just a residential only idea. So they're looking to kind of split the uses and retain a portion as VCA core for a more commercial or mixed use opportunity along with Wixom, and then have village center area transitional behind it. There is a copy of the proposed conditional rezoning agreement in your agenda packet. We are also not asking, not asking City Council to specifically consider that agreement tonight. It's provided, if this were to be approved by City Council for the first reading and introduction tonight, there would be a second reading and adoption, likely at your next meeting, and we would have the final conditional rezoning agreement. It would likely look very similar, but just for clarification, that's where we would ask for the authorization to authorize that agreement. With that in mind, I'll pass it over to Mr. Passalacqua, and I will make a note that the applicant and property owners are in the audience if you have any questions.
Good evening. Trying to think of what thunder Drew didn't steal. No, I mean, Assistant Manager Benson did a good job of summarizing kind of the process, what we've been looking at. So again, this is a conditional rezoning. to where the applicant puts together some kind of conditions associated with the rezoning of the property. We worked with the applicant over the last few months via pre-application meetings, going to planning commission. And again, the intent here is to have approximately 7 acres of the site broken up to do a townhouse project that would be strictly residential, and then retain the core designation along Old Wixom, which in the future would be developed with retail on the first floor with residential on the second, when that time comes. The conditions, we worked with the applicant and both the city's legal counsel to just, they changed a few times, but the intent of them did not change. It was clarity, it was crossing Ts and dotting Is. Another conversation that we had with the applicant with the rezoning was the consideration of potentially leaving some core designation up along Pontiac Trail, kind of as it relates to the master plan and a conversation about the development of the downtown area. We did put that in our review. We did talk about it with the applicant. They presented to planning commission. They had all the information in front of us. They were comfortable in proceeding as proposed by the applicant, with all of it being transitional up to Pontiac Trail for the portion to the west that they would be dividing off. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and again, we do have the applicant here tonight.
Councilmember Bierman?
Thank you. Maybe this is a question for you, or maybe for the applicant. Well, I guess first procedurally, we just rezoned this property, was it last year?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Did the applicant get notice of the rezoning at the time? Were they fine with the rezoning at the time?
They would have gotten a notice. We did do a mailer.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just to put a pause. Part of the reason that a conditional rezoning was suggested was to address the scenario that's happening here. When we rezone the parcel, it's all one piece. So generally, we try to avoid, planning commission would as well, avoid split zoning a parcel. So it wasn't, I will say this particular piece, I don't think was actively contemplated what the development would be there. It was when splitting up VCA, which allowed a wide gamut of uses, what would be, the most applicable to what's around it. And VCA core is the general intent for the area. So it just wasn't really predisposed at the time because it was all one big piece. So we didn't know what could happen.
Okay. Conceptually, I'm fine with a townhome type development. But I guess I'm kind of confused. I remember, was maybe 2 years ago, they were looking to expand the gas station and move their grocery store part of the gas station, and nothing's come of that, and now they're looking to build townhomes. Do we know, are they still moving forward with moving the grocery store, or are they just put that in the back burner and moved on?
I'll defer to the applicants, but my understanding is no, not at this time.
I guess just to add context to maybe the part of the question that you're asking, is that one of the conditions for the rezoning is that the transitional area would be developed within 3 years.
Okay, would the applicant like to speak regarding this? I guess I didn't feel like this piece of property we spent a lot of time on. Obviously, there's been a consent judgment on it, and here we are years down the road with still no movement from.
Marvin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Marvin Kuda, 31.
If the mics aren't working
Oh, no,
tonight,
mics,
power.
sorry. Sorry.
That's all right. Speak loud.
31331 Old Wixom Road, Wixom, Michigan. Yeah, as far as the expansion for BP, we got approved, just, unluckily, I think it was like April of 2020, right when the pandemic hit. And at the time, our bank advised us to not do it. And things changed. We got, things got a little better at the market, like during COVID, got busier, and we didn't, it was gonna be a $2 million project at the time. And we just felt that putting on the brakes made more sense, it just didn't make sense to do it at the time. Both buildings were paid off clear and free. We'd rather put that $2 million that we would have spent on this project towards what we think is right now the next best thing for the area, which would be the townhomes. And that empty lot that's been sitting there that we've had possession of since 1979.
And I agree, townhomes and that lot makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I guess kind of where I was going with is, I know there's several pieces of retail downtown that, one that the city owns that we can't move. Do you feel there's a need to keep a part of that property and still for retail? Or I guess why not do townhomes in all of it?
Our original intent was to have that entire, we were thinking of condos for the entire thing, but we always wanted to leave just south of the VP, leave that as is, VCA core, or at the time, just VCA. And because we always had a plan to put something there in the future. We know the area. Down Pontiac Trail is not conducive for commercial. It's mostly light industrial and heavy industrial down that corridor. And the planning, as Mateo mentioned, at the planning commission, it was mentioned that they wanted to keep VCA core along Pontiac Trail.
Also, the planning commission is the one that directed keeping that.
That was a recommendation made by us during our review, seek Carlisle Workman.
Right. I guess it was more, conducive to the master plan to have it along Pontiac Trail and Old Wixom Road. We feel there's a chance Old Wixom Road can have retail in the future. Not right now, but, later on, because there's a few different reasons why. We think, first of all, it's nice for angular parking, it's less heavy traffic, people could walk there more often. Pontiac Trail is just not, there's a factory right across the street, they make furnaces,
I agree with you that retail in Pontiac Trail would make no sense in that location.
Yes.
I guess I was more curious in why we weren't just doing all residential, but I think it's been answered. I'm fine with the rezoning that you proposed this evening. I guess that's what's being asked tonight, is the rezoning as proposed. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
And I would just offer some clarity that Carlisle Workman agrees that the transitional use is a better zoning designation for that site from a development perspective. The way core is written, to have that entire site be core would be, you couldn't pull it off with internal roads and things of that nature. So our conversation was more or less retail at Pontiac Trail, but as far as the site overall, we would agree that transitional would be a good use for the site.
Good.
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a similar question about the 72 acres, which, by the way, I think the rezoning of that for transitional is really one of the key intents of breaking up DCA into those different categories, because abutting it to the west is R3, Gibson House, and so it is a transitional acreage. I like the townhouse concept, because I think as West End Commons gets developed, I think there'll be a lot more foot traffic and a lot more pedestrian walkability in that area, and keeping the frontage on Old Wixom as a DCA core is also appropriate. So I'm in favor of rezoning as proposed.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Beagle. First of all, hello, Mr. Shweta.
Hello.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
Good to see you. I guess you just sort of saying that, I like that the Old Wixom Road has, I think has a nice future potential for, for business, and especially as things continue to, develop in the DCA. So yeah, I'm good with all that. And then one question, it might be more for over here. In our packet here, it's about a draft for a plan for 72 unit townhouse. And then elsewhere, it's kind of like we're not sure yet how many, which is fine. I'm just curious, is that 72 just a rough idea of what might go in there?
I believe that would be maxing out the density. The
Okay.
maximum density in BCA transitional is 10 units per acre. So that's how we got to that, and that's what the original concept looks
Okay,
like.
that was my next question, is the density kind of in line with what we want in that area?
Yes.
But that'd be the maximum, it wouldn't necessarily be 72 units, that's just the max.
Yeah, depending on how it lays out and how it, how it works out through the process, but I believe that is their intent, to try to get that many units.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gatchel.
Thank you. I had noticed in here that the original zoning was B2, like around the time of the consent judgment. Would housing have been, that's not allowed in B2, correct? Typically?
Not in current B2 as far as I know. I couldn't necessarily speak to what B2 consisted of in 97, but probably not, no.
Okay. And this is one of those interesting kind of areas where it is in the VCA, it makes sense to be VCA. It doesn't fully feel transitional to me, in the sense that it's mainly surrounded by commercial industrial properties. So when we look at it, like the comment was made about what would the frontage along Pontiac Trail potentially be, and kind of reading or walking the line here between, obviously we're not approving the proposal for what's being shown, but are there any like green space requirements for transitional when we look at residential developments? Like, I don't know that going fully transitional and allowing purely residential along Pontiac Trail, to me, thinking of what is surrounding there, it doesn't feel appropriate to me. Is there an allowance for that having to be green space instead of buildings, or do we not have any requirements like that built into transitional right now?
Not necessarily along road frontages. I mean, the zoning in and of itself actually calls for structures to front or be close to the street. I would defer to Mr. Pasalacqua on the open space requirements for a project like this. At a minimum, I mean, we'll really dig into those when we're going through the site condominium review. But for the frontage piece itself, no, I don't think it would intend to call for green space to be along the road. If anything, it's really designed to mirror what we see along Wixom Road, north of Genesis Credit Union. That kind of, I believe that's 15 feet from the front property line is what the setback for those are. That's off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback, it's something I would need to look into further. I mean, you have your general standards for any development, of which there are some in the VCA language that kind of trump your others. They're a little bit more restrictive or require a little bit more than what your general does. But again, the intent of all of these districts is density on some level. And so the dedication for open space, if there is any, it's probably slim. But again, with the intent being with the density on the sites on one level or another, that would be the reason for it.
Okay. And this is VCA core right now, and we're mainly promoting mixed use or retail in that situation, right?
Yeah, it would, I don't want to speak for the applicant of what they may or may not want to do. Obviously, commercial uses are the primary kind of gamut of options. Again, there are only residential options beyond the upper stories, but it would, provide they can be taller, they can have a higher density. So it's, kind of working your way up, so to speak, in a downtown sense, if that makes sense.
But like putting in, since it's surrounded by like warehouse sort of looking facilities, that would not be allowed in VCA core. That's not what we would be trying to build, is that correct? Or
Industrial buildings?
Yeah.
No, that would not, no.
So, I don't know, this just strikes me as this lot is in an awkward situation where we're not trying to get more industrial buildings, which is what is surrounding it. I don't feel like road frontage on Pontiac Trail should be townhouses with balconies hanging over the road. That's a nightmare right now, especially with the expressway being closed down. But I don't know, that's the only section of this that concerns me. I would say I'm mainly fine with the interior becoming townhouse, like residential style, but it's just that frontage that really concerns me. So I don't know how we go about that or what the majority is, but I understand it's a tricky piece.
Well, and ultimately, and I can defer to the applicants here too. I mean, that was a pretty large discussion point with the planning commission. You know, and the applicants talked about kind of their reasons for desiring transitional along Pontiac Trail as opposed to core. You know, I'll defer to them to talk about their logic there, but ultimately the planning commission did, you know, unanimously move in their favor of agreeing with, to recommend to you all transitional along Pontiac Trail. This is mainly related to the viability of uses. I'll defer to you, Marvin.
Sure, I mean, are
There's
you
no-
just not sure why we are not interested in?
No,
putting
I
a commercial
agree,
building
like, I
along
don't
Pontiac Trail?
foresee it being like country corners over there. It's not gonna be a setup, like if that were retail, that's not gonna be it, between the gas station and the park that's there now. It's just like a weird in-between. I don't know, I kind of worry about the desirability of that being residential back into that amount of traffic. So that's mainly where this spurs from. It's very kind of stuck lot in terms of what the uses could be, what the zonings are, what we're trying to get. So I understand why you're trying to just match it with everything else. It's just my concern that it's not gonna be, those aren't gonna be really desirable units that are gonna sit there. That's why I mentioned green space. I know, and that obviously factors into the dollars and cents and what makes the project viable, but to me, it almost makes more sense to make that green space and garden as an entry to the neighborhood rather than buildings. Or we look at the density, and I don't know what transitional and core, how that plays into it with parking and building sizes and unit sizes and all of that, but that's my concern. If this needs to be more dense and transitional won't allow it, like dense in terms of we need to shrink the footprint of the actual buildings condensing so we can make the numbers still work, but that's not Pontiac Trail front townhouses. That's my, I guess, where I'm coming from. I don't wanna see that turn into units that sit because no one wants to have a balcony looking at cars and semis going by all day.
You wanna say?
No, I
Okay.
duly noted.
Okay. Very good. Councilmember Behrman?
I just want to make sure that I was clear. I like what you proposed. I was more, I know you own a lot of property downtown, and I don't know if that piece of property that you're preserving is going to be able to be retail, and I would rather do that analysis, and if you think that should be residential too, do it at the same time versus, do you get what I'm saying?
We are willing to risk it. I mean, I understand your point of view. At this time, right now, retail makes no sense, right? And, you know, at this point.
That's, I mean, I feel like it's just
But
kicking the can down the road in 3 years.
we don't wanna lock ourselves in. I mean, we can always come back to you and say, hey, can we just make the rest of it transitional? We always have that option.
Understood, but I am in favor of your rezoning.
Our hope is that these go gangbusters and we'll keep going and maybe, you know, maybe we'll, if the price is good, you know, people are willing to be on Pontiac Trail and in the middle and wherever, we'll keep, I mean, no, that means they're willing to be on Old Woodson Road, and if it makes sense, we could potentially do that. I mean, just right now at this time, we think 7 acres is a good start. And there are other pieces of property in the area that we could continue building condos on if they take off, which is our hope. And because whenever we approach a national or a regional tenant, the main drawback is not enough rooftops. That's every time, that's for the last 2 decades, that's what we've been hearing. You know, so we think right now, this is a good direction to go in. And then maybe if it happens, the retail, you know, no problem. We got enough property where the market is, where the Wixom Food Market is. We have plenty of potential there. We own the property next to the daycare place on Waystock. We could do stuff there. I mean, there's a lot of other spots we could do it in if retail, you know, hopefully soon happens, but we don't see it coming anytime soon. We just want the option there.
I understand.
Because Old Wixom Road is such a low traffic, it's a nice unique situation where, just kind of like where Country Corner is on Pontiac Trail between Old Wixom and New Wixom Road. It's kind of unique, you know what I mean? It's not straight, like just flowing traffic. It's kind of diverted traffic, if you will, you know, if you know what I'm saying. Like that, closing the roads and having the festival on Pontiac Trail right there. You could do the same thing on Old Wixom Road and get away with it without a problem. It's just that uniqueness, you know, we don't want to lose that.
Understood.
And I will say, generally speaking, I think Planning Commission has shared and appreciated that. I mean, that was part of the conversation as well, and I think they were very receptive to, you know, the opportunity to have different types of uses. And sure, it's a conversation we can have 5 years down the line if this goes really well. But it's leaving our options open, I think, on both sides.
I spoke to Drew, we could possibly do angular parking on Old Wixom Road, which you can't do anywhere, really, too many other places in Wixom that easily without, you know, messing up traffic.
Old Wixom is a city road, by the way, that's where that piece comes from.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
You have more flexibility over how that right of way is.
Yeah, Wixom owns Old Wixom Road.
Councilmember Brown Fox?
Thank you.
Hi.
I support the rezoning, but I do have a question that
Sure.
I just thought of, about the 3 years. What is the significance of that nothing will be done for 3 years?
That's just an arbitrary number that we came up with just to give us a timeline, you know, for any unforeseen items, you know. We just threw that number out there just to be.
So it could be sooner than that?
Oh, of course. I mean, we're hoping to break ground if things go normally, hopefully in the spring. You know, unless, you know, we have a catastrophe somewhere, like COVID, like the last time we were standing here. I mean, you know, hopefully none of that happens, but, you know, you never know.
Okay, so that's kind of your worst case scenario?
Yeah, I mean, our hope is to break ground in the spring.
Great.
That's what we're kind of shooting for.
The city wanted a deadline on it, so that we'd have certainty that if it didn't happen, then we'd have, you know, that agreement could be null. What if that wasn't completed? So,
Within that, okay.
right, and that covers both of us, and we get it in 3 years just for a little leeway, and hopefully it won't be necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dave, any further questions? All right, I too support this rezoning. We talked about it before, and I like the plan, and hopefully we can break ground in the spring, and hopefully the next spring you can break ground on the commercial land, and it's gonna be okay, so.
Whatever comes in front of us,
Yep.
we're ready. I mean, we're just taking it as it comes. I mean, we can't really force anything to happen.
Whatever's financially best for you guys, but hopefully things turn around.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
You're welcome. With that, I've got a motion and a second to approve the consideration on the planning commission recommendation to introduce an amendatory ordinance to conditionally rezone 7.2 acres of the property located at 31201 Old Wixom Road, parcel identification number 22-06-200-035 from Village Center Area Core to Village Center Area Transitional with the conditions from the applicant as proposed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to new business number 3 is a recommendation to approve the introduction of a mandatory ordinance to amend Title 18.00 zoning chapter 18.16 signs, sections 18.16.020 and 18.16.070 to clarify and update definitions, sign design standards, prohibited signs, and appeals and variances in the village central area zoning districts. Do I have a motion?
So, go ahead, you.
Support.
So moved and supported.
I got a motion and a support. Assistant City Manager Benson.
In an effort to not steal thunder, I'm going to pass this directly to Mr. Passalacqua.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you tonight is collective work between the Planning Commission, Carlisle Wortman, and the Assistant City Manager's Office to better define signs in the VCA. Signs can be a hot topic item that really you kind of have to craft your ordinance well if you really know what you want. So after the review of some signs that may or may have not met the intent of the original ordinance, we worked with the Planning Commission to better define what we do want, better define what we don't want, better define the colors we're going to use, better define how we're going to light it, and add some pictures to the VCA ordinance, which really help the applicant then see physical examples of the types of things that we're talking about. And the whole intent is to improve the city's ability to administratively review and approve those signs, but then also give applicants the idea of the kind of quality that we're looking for. It also provides an avenue that should there be a dispute on whether or not the sign meets the intent, or maybe a reason why it doesn't meet the intent, but it should be approved, there's an avenue for the applicant to take that to the Planning Commission directly.
And just one additional note, probably the most novel addition to this is those images, and really the requirement to meet specific design and material standards. So of the, I believe there are 6 different kind of categories: ceramic tile, wood, metal, brick or stone, matching or stylistically similar awnings and projecting signs, so a sign package, or high quality composite materials. Those are specifically required to meet 2 of those in order to be administratively approvable. So the intent is to really push higher quality signs and help applicants understand that on the front side more, while also offering more clarity for staff.
I tried to keep it simple, Mayor. I can't speak for Drew.
Any questions? Councilmember Smatter.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I've had to design some signs in my days, and some cities it's very strict, and then there's some that are way too loose. I feel like this is a nice, hey, get things that have a little uniformity, look nice, but not be I don't know, over encumbrance on all of our retail businesses. So I like this. I assume that you use an example in here of a business of don't do this box sign. That's what their grandfather did, and we're not going to make them change it, are we?
They are, yes.
Only if they come to us wanting a new sign.
Right, well, yeah, once they want to change it, yeah, they're okay. That's all I had to say, thank you.
Councilmember Gacho?
Thank you. Looking at one of the bullets for what is being changed, it says the prohibition of flat one-dimensional signs. And then there's a photo of like CETA in here. Is that not a flat one-dimensional sign?
So technically, I believe that has a very slight dimension to it. But you're not wrong.
Sun warping.
No, the letters are slightly raised, and that's actually a great example that we discussed that with the Planning Commission, and that particular sign package, including the awnings, went through the Planning Commission, and they talked about the process of that, from many years ago, and that was viewed more favorably because it had the matching awning, so they were looking at a package of signs. So they were willing to kind of offer leniency on the wall sign portion in exchange for having the awnings and the whole sign package be more cohesive. Again, that's actually probably a pretty good example of where that package may not be administratively approvable today, and then their alternative would be to go to the Planning Commission and sort of make the argument or have the conversation about, hey, here's how we think we're meeting the intent, or here's kind of where we're looking for flexibility and why. there is a degree of this planning commission's intent is to have more control over signs and have the opportunity to see them spelled out a little bit in greater detail.
I would offer too that I think the primary intent of that example, and I completely get your point, is the talk about stylistic matching, colors, awnings, things of that nature.
I understand that that's the subcategory that the photos are attached to, but like, to me, that photo kind of shows that it's a flat, one-dimensional sign, whereas the other examples are not that. Ironwood, some of these photos are difficult to make out. Ironwood Grill looks to be flat, one-dimensional. But it's just like, I guess I didn't look at it close enough. Do we have, is there something in here that says, okay, it's not a flat, one-dimensional sign if your lettering or some element is a half an inch extruded or cut in? Or is there a standard like that? Like, what defines
Right.
not flat, one-dimensional?
I don't know that we added a specific measurement, but there is a requirement that all signs shall have clearly distinguishable dimensional effects to the sign. Individual letters, symbols, or logos shall be raised or recessed onto a different plane than the sign background. Flat, one-dimensional signs shall be prohibited. Now, whether or not we prescribe a depth of 1 inch, or I don't believe that actual measurement exists.
Okay. Because, like, putting a sticker decal on sheet metal is a difference in some sense. But I guess in here, the comment was made that now you could get a package, we're gonna look at the package, we're gonna say the awnings count as your difference, even if you have a flat sign as they pretty much appear to have.
I mean, that would be at the planning commission's discretion, but theoretically.
I would deny a flat sign, but if they had some other stylistic thing incorporated into it that they felt was meeting the intent, then they would have an avenue to take that to the planning commission.
Yeah, I'm just like, that being used as an example, I don't care for it, because I think, is this actually going to be something that is, like, those photos are gonna be in the design guidelines and the ordinance that everyone looks at now?
Yes, I mean, the images as they're proposed now would be part of the examples, they would be the example.
I don't know, maybe other people would jump in, but I would almost move to strike that image. I'm not, like, I understand the package deal situation, but the awnings, we've talked about the awnings up here, they're not in good condition to begin with. I understand that they're matching and it's an element, but it doesn't replace having just a flat sign when everybody else has something that is a little bit more appealing or looks better. So I don't know if there's other comments, I'll think about it, but that would be, I guess, something that I would amend is if we have to striking that. This is just a mandatory introduction too, right? It'll come back to us for another vote. Is that something that could just be handled if others comment up here without us voting to do that?
I think that we can look at, and I'll defer to Mateo, and maybe we might need to talk about this, outside of the meeting to look at what we can and can't do, but we may have the ability to swap out images or examples.
But your issue is not with the awnings, you don't mind awnings, correct?
I don't mind awnings, but I don't think that should be hey, we're gonna let you have this flat sign because you have awnings. Awnings are like a nice addition to have, but your sign should still match what we're looking for. And that, at least looking at it in photo form, we could walk over there, but in photo form, that doesn't seem to match the not flat, one-dimensional.
That's just the best example, at least that we had on hand. We can find better examples of awning signs too, but just to be clear, I mean, you do have to meet per the ordinance, so that's E, I think it goes down to F. You have to meet 2 of those to be administratively approvable, but even in a review, let's say they appeal to take that sign package to the planning commission, our review might say they only meet 1 of these and their sign doesn't have dimension. So it comes down to the planning commission. But we can certainly look at different images. We'll look into that option and refer to that when we bring, you guys
I
approve
would
this.
prefer that. I mean, I know planning commission loves having the extreme detail in there of what's allowed or not allowed, but I don't wanna leave that up to, what a particular planning commission feels, because the signs aren't getting swapped out very often, so that's gonna be up there for many, many years, decade plus, so I'd rather it just looks good the first time. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to approve the introduction of a amendatory ordinance to amend Title 18.00 zoning, Chapter 18.16, signs, Sections 18.16.020 and 18.16.070 to clarify and update definitions, sign design standards, prohibited signs, and appeal and variances in the village center area zoning districts. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to new business number 4 is a recommendation to authorize an interlocal placemaking and public spaces program agreement with Oakland County for local fiscal recovery fund distribution as a grant for the West End Commons project, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Very good. Mr. Benson, and we also have the DDA director, Laura Cloutier, here tonight. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll take the lead on introducing this one, and then I'll pass it over to Laura. I apologize for talking so much tonight. This wasn't entirely intentional. So before you tonight is a recommendation to authorize an interlocal agreement with Oakland County for a placemaking grant. That is one part of a larger kind of combination of funding sources related to the West End Commons area project. We have discussed this before. You all authorized in conjunction, being paid for by the DDA, but engineering to start preparing the West End Commons area related to these grant opportunities. The other grant opportunity, which is much more significant, is a community project, funding project grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which was secured thanks to our Representative Haley Stevens. So the intent tonight, and we'll go through kind of the concept plans that are included in the agenda packet, but again, I want to make clear, the intent tonight is really just getting council's authorization to enter into this interlocal agreement, and the specific plan and the specific project, those are the intent is to still work through additional community engagement to really flesh out what the final plan will be, but even more importantly, will require specific authorization from planning or from DDA and City Council before that happens. So this is mainly related to, accepting the opportunity to have these grant funds, but we're not obligated to spend them until you all authorize the funding. With that in mind, I want to give some credit to Laura for her efforts and really persistence in helping secure some of these funding opportunities. We do have a unique opportunity, with a total budget of $1.23 million, with a comparatively low city contribution thanks to the large funding provided by the federal government. It gives us an opportunity to really address what has been an undesirable corner, a former right-of-way really, that's otherwise, I would say, undevelopable with an 18-inch sewer main and other stormwater drains and water lines that run through it. So in working with HRC, the two concept plans attached are reasonably feasible ideas, and I'll defer to Laura to kind of walk through what those look like and then kind of what's gone to get us to this point.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Council, for meeting with us tonight regarding this. So we wanted to bring these site plan concepts to you. We did bring them forward to the DDA this morning to get their feedback on them. So any feedback that you have would be very helpful as well. The first concept drawing shows a circular seating plaza with a stage area and shade shelter basically over the area. It also includes a gas fire pit that would be on a timer for use by our residents and visitors, along with knee walls and landscaping. The DDA Design Committee is looking at very complimentary furnishings of Adirondack chairs and benches and that sort of thing, and tables in this area. As you can see, we've also included the new branded X in the middle. That is a design that we would really like to incorporate, you know, just add a fun touch to this area. You'll also see entry points from the Club parking lot off of Waynestock and from the main sidewalk area. So everything would be ADA compliant. In the back of the property is a bocce ball court for activity use. This is also part of our Junction Social District common area. So the DDA feels that it's very important to activate this space with whether it's activities of a bocce ball that people can go freely and play, or have lunchtime concerts or kid activities there, have a magician during the day in the summertime that parents can bring their kids to. This would also be utilized for our block party, and we would not have to rent the Oakland County stage and save a little bit money every year from doing that. The second plan takes away the bocce ball court and gives us two other seating areas that we could utilize in different ways, whether we have incorporated farmers market there with booths or just different seating areas. We could put yard games out there. Things like that.
So and the one other piece I want to make sure we point out, because a decent portion of the budget for this is also intended for gateway signage directly at that corner. So the old Wixom and Pontiac Trail intersection is really the entryway to the downtown area. And with all the work we've been doing on signage and branding, logos, the intent is to really have a nice installation there that welcomes you to downtown, sort of on the back side of that structure. And then the one other piece I want to make sure that we point out is we've been very intentional to be thoughtful of how it harmonizes with the existing infrastructure that's been built. I know, we have knee walls in other areas. We use a lot of brick and with some sandstone pieces. We're trying to be considerate of how that, matches as well. So, granted, this is not colorized, and will likely go through, additional revisions based on DDA comments, city council comments, and then, other feedback that we get through kind of some of the public engagement we have planned for the fall. The intent is for it to be harmonious and really be,
cohesive with the rest of the spaces in downtown. The last piece that I forgot to mention is we do have a proposed pad for a public restroom as well, whether that is a temporary restroom or a permanent restroom that gets built in.
So, and I'm sorry, I know you'll have questions, so I'll stop talking, I promise. I just wanted to say, also additions of streetscaping and lampposts that would match. And then finally, from a next steps perspective, if City Council were to authorize this interlocal agreement, we would continue kind of down the designing process throughout the fall with the hope of bringing you all, the DDA and you all, a final concept, for your recommendation or your authorization to proceed to seeking bids, November, December, potentially a little bit later if federal funds are fun to try to deal with, and it's a process of them getting their ducks in a row. So that would be the only kind of other major delay if there's support from city councils otherwise.
It's our hope that to have an RFP late, December, January timeframe with groundbreaking hopefully in the spring, assuming the federal government can get their ducks in a row, as Rick said.
Very exciting plan, very exciting time, and I shared this with City Manager Brown, but I was in Ann Arbor a couple of weeks ago. I probably got some dirty looks, but they have one of those thrones. They have one of those thrones there. And I was taking pictures and looking around, and they probably thought I was weird or something. They were right, but no, but that would be awesome to have there. It was very clean, looked very nice. It doesn't take away from the settings or anything like that.
I have used those myself in Ann Arbor. They're very nice.
Councilmember Griffin.
In support of your request this evening, between the two proposals, three circular ones, I would probably go with. I feel like bocce ball. I think it would be kind of unique in the beginning, but it would be hard to maintain, and I would be disappointed in several years. There's no balls left and a bunch of weeds growing. Just perhaps just reseeding areas or things that we could move would be easier to move forward with.
Fair point.
I guess my only comment was, I prefer more grassy areas where perhaps you could do permanently mounted cornhole targets, those sorts of things that could be changed if the fad changes in 5 or 6 years versus a fixed bocce or concrete area. Beyond the concrete pad in the stage area and knee wall, is that, so that's intended to be a grassy knoll then behind it? Okay.
Yes.
Which would be nice too for people that want to take lunch or get open mic night.
Just throw a blanket down.
And, the other comment, I'm glad it's a gas fire is nice, being that close to where people might be sitting and
Not
not wood. And, if there was a way to incorporate some seating benching into the knee wall concepts, I think that's another nice feature that people just, perch on it, even if it's just a simple shelf around the arc of it. But I'm very much in support of the interlocal placemaking agreement as well. A great way to get these things done and turn, like you said, a piece of property that couldn't be used for much else into a focal point. Would be a great asset to the city. So very much in favor of it.
And with the potential future development of Mr. Fuda's property, this would, those people would have a place to go.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Beal. Hello, Ms. Cloutier. I agree with, Councilman Behrman's thing on the whole bocce ball. Where will that be in a few years? And then I also like Deputy Mayor Resnick's point about maybe a little more grass than cement, but yeah, you want some cement for depending on the activities. I really like, how it's being funded. Well done, thank you. And then finally, when you say temporary restrooms, does that mean
No, I was referring to the throne bathrooms that Mayor Beagle just spoke about.
Oh.
We can share additional information on that farther down the line, but
Yeah,
essentially think of them as,
I assume it's a budget thing too, we'll see how far the funds go. And one other quick thing, now, it was several months ago, we had some, you gave us some conceptual renderings, right? Will any of that look be applied to this? I know you changed some layout and things, but.
Yeah, so the conceptual renderings that we showed you have kind of evolved to include more brick. So that's where we're.
So those are really.
I think what you originally saw was the first round of renderings, and so we've done a second round now to be very thoughtful in the cohesiveness of the aesthetics of downtown.
We'll see those.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Councilmember Gotcha.
Thank you. I noticed in attachment 3, there's like a quote and images for a sign, like a temporary sign.
Yes, so the DDA board would like to advertise, so to say, what is coming there. And that is something that we spoke about and they would like me to move forward on in time to installation for the block party. With having over 5,500 people last year at block party, this is a good opportunity to show the community what the DDA is working on.
The other thing is it will allow us, the design hasn't necessarily been finalized. We'll probably use some of the renderings we do have, but it's an engagement opportunity as well to sort of share the opportunity of like, hey, what do you want to see here? Go to wixomgov.org or wixomda.
Downtownwixom.org.
So yeah, that's part of the idea behind that sign.
All right, yeah, kind of starting to spending $850 on a sign to show things. And I know, like, the schools, for example, when they get their giant bonds passed, they spend a portion of that money on signs, telling everyone they got the money and they're spending on signs. And I've always heard people kind of grouse about why are they wasting money on signs. So I'd rather just cut that $850. I know it's not city council money, but that's, I don't know, not a giant fan of that. I understand we want to have like posters or something up for block party, but I'm not a fan of the permanent sign. Looking at the X, was there a comment that that's going to be natural material? Like, it's not going to be red and blue, is it?
It's not finalized. We sort of conceptually talked about it either way, right? It could be bronze, that was one thing we talked about, or it could be red and blue. I think we'll better flesh that out as we go through this process. The main point, or key that we talked about is how cool would it be for aerials in the future to be able to see that, right, from a distance if you're, Oakland County's aerials are otherwise material or color-wise still to be determined.
What's the final approval level on everything?
You all. So city council, the city owns the property, it is your discretion what happens there.
I'd like that to be a natural. It's fine if we want to put the X in there, but I prefer natural colors, not aiming for looking cool in Google satellite view. So, and then the fire pit, my only thought is whether that's safe or not from like our city insurance standpoint to have that. It's not, it'd be a nice thing, but I can imagine someone not like watching themselves around it or that becoming an issue. In terms of the two layouts, I agree that bocce ball up front might be nice. I don't know, like the longevity of keeping people that engaged in it. It depends on what develops around it. So maybe having more flexibility in what eventually goes there would be nice. Final comment is just the orientation of like the stage and whatnot. Thinking noise-wise, if there was like a lunch concert, for example, I know my parents went to one or two in Ann Arbor, and it's in a little pocket park, and they really enjoyed it. So when you mentioned that, that's kind of what came to mind. And I think about the orientation noise-wise, like simply the traffic noise is behind your back, and that probably makes it easier to hear the music or whatever's happening. And in downtown Farmington, their little band shell is oriented the same way where traffic's behind you. So that might be my only thought is, do we rotate the stage around to the other side of the circle there? That's my only concern. I don't, because I can imagine that's tractor trailer noise too there. So that might get a little loud. Thank you.
Is blue and gold considered a natural color?
No, we're talking, blues found in nature, gold not so much.
Councilmember Grella Fox?
I love the plan, it's very exciting, I think it's great. My preference, when I first saw the bocce ball, I thought it would be fun, but I think the less things we can have that people can walk away with, like the balls and all of that, we're probably better off. I do like the circles. I like the fire pit. I understand what you're saying about liability, so we have to check that out. But I would like to see more green. I think the more green space, less cement. But I understand what you're trying to accomplish. It's awesome.
Green and white, just for the record.
All opposed?
We could put glow in the dark brick pavers in there too. That's nice.
Councilmember Gonzo?
Relating to the greenery comments and the deputy mayor's comments, one thing that came to mind with this was from my time living in Chicago, like Millennium Park and Maggie Daly Park. I don't know if you look at those, but they have a lot. To me, that's a very good combination of park space, plantings, like natural plantings, and then gathering areas. I would be very happy if this turned out to look like that, especially with the if there's planters and whatnot, I agree with Deputy Mayor's comments about having those have seats attached to them. So I think that's visually, if this turned out to look like that, then I'd be very happy. Just no blue and red X and no things that make it look serious.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
I just wanted to add something. This past weekend, my travels, I noted that the VDA and the tiny city of Malden, Michigan, had funded a portion of their commons area and the band shell with a brick program where people could buy a brick for $100 and get their rating on it, and then they're paving part of the area in front of the band shell, so for future funding. Might be something to take a look at. A number of communities do it that way.
Yeah, our design committee actually has tossed that out as an option. I think that's a great idea. Can we have recognition?
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize an interlocal placemaking and public spaces program agreement with Oakland County for the local fiscal recovery fund distribution as a grant for the West End Commons project, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Carissa, and everybody on DDA.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
I'd like to thank the Oakland County Commissioners for approving this money that we are getting through Main Street Oakland County for this placemaking project, so.
Very good. Excited? Can't wait. Can't wait? All right, new business number 5 is a recommendation to authorize the purchase of a single axle Freightliner truck chassis from Wolverine Freightliner East Side of Mount Clemens, Michigan, in the amount of $107,125, and the purchase of related snow fighting equipment from Truck and Trailer Specialties of Dutton, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $126,130 from dump truck and equipment replacement account number 401-441-973.392, and authorize the associated budget amendment. Motion.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
on.
Mayor, members of council. We have one more truck to purchase this year, and it is for firefighting, or for snow fighting capabilities. Our firefighters are out tonight with other problems. But this one would be primarily for dead ends and smaller areas. The BCA is one of them that we need a truck that can go in and out of the area and to plow snow. This will have 8-yard salt bed and two 225-gallon tanks for brine that we will be able to use in the area. We feel that this will be a great addition to our fleet. As you know, we do like our wing plows. We have 3 of them existing right now, and we plan to keep them. We have one 9-foot blade with a wing and 2 7-foot blades. This one, unfortunately, we're opting out of that just for the maneuverability in this area. Also, we have front plows primarily on 3 of those, actually with the wing. So we'll be utilizing those for that type of use. This one will be for the daily in and out of smaller subs and the necessary dead ends that we have to clean up as well. With that, I'll be open for questions.
And we're also doing this agreement, we have an agreement with 5 other communities working on this, and so.
Right, yes.
Very good on that, save us some money.
Yep.
Great. And how long, you place the order tomorrow, when will we get it?
We're hoping that we'll be able to get it for the next winter fighting year, so
Okay.
it's about 11 months.
Very good. Any questions? All right, seeing none?
Winter fighting.
Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize the purchase of a single axle Freightliner truck chassis from Wolverine Freightliner East Side of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, in the amount of $107,125, and the purchase of related snow fighting equipment from Truck and Trailer Specialties of Denton, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $126,130 from Dump Truck and Equipment Replacement Account number 401-441-973.392, and authorize the associated budget amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, now you go out and get those trees.
We will.
All right. And new business number 6 is a recommendation to adopt a resolution to approve an interlocal agreement between the city of Walled Lake, the city of Wixom, the village of Wolverine Lake, White Lake Township, and the Oakland County Community Health Network for the mental health co-response team, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Very good. Chief Langmeyer,
Good evening.
excited about this. Let's hear it.
I'm very excited to be here tonight to talk to you a little bit about a program that we've known we've needed in law enforcement for a year. And Oakland County and the Oakland County Health Network is kind of leading the way with our local law enforcement departments in addressing this mental health issue that's out there. I think we all agree that there's a mental health issue going on across our country and across our state. Wixom is no exception. This year alone, we've handled 103 calls for service that involve mental health and substance abuse, and those are the mandatory calls where somebody's in danger and we're going to handle it. That's not including the 2 we handled this weekend or the 1 we went to today. And it's really not handling all those calls for service where we're going to check on somebody and they're really not a danger to themselves. And so there's really nothing we can do. Our people are very, very good at handling the scene. They can go and de-escalate a situation and get it under control. The problem is we don't have the capacity for the back end to start to address the problems that these people are going through. And we're going through more and more of these calls for service every week. We're at 103 this year, and we've still got, 4 months left? The numbers are starting to skyrocket for us. And if I include all the other calls for service, like I said, the welfare checks and that kind of stuff, we do this every single day. We are addressing mental health in the community every single day. That's not including the fire department calls, and they're addressing it too. So the solution that we've come up with here is this co-responder program and a partnership between us, the Oakland County Health Network, White Lake, Wolverine Lake, and Walled Lake. Reality is, even though we have a lot of calls for service, I don't know if I have enough calls for service to keep a social worker busy full-time all year long. But if we bring these PDs together and we share one social worker, we found out that there is enough work there for everybody. Now, this program started back in 2021. I'm very proud of this program because we were part of the program, one of the initiating departments that started it in Bloomfield Township. They started it with Hillary, Bloomfield Township, Birmingham, and Auburn Hills. We shared one social worker. Their calls for service have increased so much that they now have 2 social workers in each of those departments are considering hiring their own. The program's been so successful here in Oakland County that it's being copied across the state, number 1. And it's being copied across Oakland County. Waterford has their own social worker. Troy has their own social worker. Pontiac has one. Royal Oak, Madison Heights, Ferndale, and Hazel Park?
Hazel Park.
Correct?
Yep.
Have hired 2. We would be the first ones to bring to the west side of the county if you agree to this agreement. It is something that we are in dire need of. The one thing, let's talk about funding for this grant. Here's the part that I'm most proud of that we were able to work out here. In this case, our first year of funding, OCHM has given us a grant to cover the first year of the cost for this. White Lake has applied for a grant with the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. They've agreed to, they've given us the exact numbers that are in their paperwork. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's $300,000 and some odd that should cover the next 3 years. That grant is only good until 2026. We anticipate going back and getting permission for at least 1 more year of service for it. So we're thinking we've got 3 years of this program covered at no cost for our poor community. Hopefully a 4th, if we can talk on polls and extending the grant 1 extra year. We'll have to see where that falls, but we're guaranteed for at least 3. What we're asking asking for today is for you to sign a resolution that agree, that, so we can join this agreement with them and allow the mayor to sign the agreement. With me today is Siri Sikora and Hillary Newsbaum. They are two of the founding members of CORE, and they know more about this program and what it can do for our community than I ever could. So I'd like to call them up. I'm sure that they can answer any questions that you have.
One more thing, Your Honor, if I can, just to flesh out the funding aspect of it in the future, beyond those funded years that we've talked about, we're anticipating that the opioid settlement monies that we have coming in could also be used to cover expenses in association with this in the longer run. And I wanted to make mention of that because that's something that you have seen a lot of in terms of authorizing participation in those opioid settlements nationally. That's one use of the money that we intend to take advantage of.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Siri Support. I'm the manager of Justice Initiatives at Open Community Health Network. And as Chief mentioned, Hillary Nussbaum is here too. She's our co-responder supervisor. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you tonight and give you a little bit of information about our co-responder initiative. As Chief has mentioned, we actually started the co-responder initiative pretty much exactly 3 years ago in those original 3 communities. Since then, we have grown to now have 7 co-responders embedded in 11 police departments in Oakland County, in addition to a substation through the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. So there's clearly a need that we can assist law enforcement in addressing some of these 911 calls that have or appear to have a potential behavioral health concern. So our co-responder clinicians are mental and adult social workers. We also hire psychologists or counselors, but at this point our team is all social workers. Hillary will be providing you a little bit more details about what like the day-to-day looks like with our co-responders, so you have a good idea of what that may look like in your community as we interact with the residents.
Hello, thank you for having us tonight. So just a little bit about the day-to-day. So I, along with my partner, work with 4 communities now. So we're in the city of Auburn Hills, Birmingham, Bloomfield Township, and then the city of Rochester. So between those 4, the 2 of us sort of split up our calls for service with them. So we carry a prep radio just like police officers do. We wear vests that really stands out to make us look different than police. So we'll say social worker, it's a different color, and just to make sure that we're also safe. So when we hear mental health calls come out on the radios, that could be like welfare checks, suicidal individual, suspicious people, suspicious circumstance, those types of things, family troubles. Those are the types of calls we listen for mental health concerns. And dispatch will either dispatch us to that scene. Police officers can call us to the scene or even self-dispatch to the scene. So there's multiple ways we can get there. And we try to get there, and we provide resources here and now, right, like on the scene. So the idea is if they have not been linked to any kind of mental health services in the past, that we link them to those services now. So that might be connecting them with our OCHN services for Medicaid or for people who are not insured, or also connecting them if they have a third-party insurance, we can connect them to services in that way too. It's also a lot of problem solving on scene and determining, what is the best situation for this individual right now. Do we need to take them to the hospital? Do we need to take them to common ground? Is there something else we can do? So on scene, as a clinician, can we safety plan for this person? Do they have to go to the emergency room? So how can we better plan for this person so they have a good outcome with the crisis that they're in? So that's one of the things we do. We respond to the calls with police. That's our number one thing. The second piece is we receive referrals from police when we're not working. So overnight or when we have days off, police are still sending us those referrals when we're not able to make the scene. So we follow up to those referrals quickly within probably 24 hours, up to a couple days, just to make sure that we connect with those individuals and make sure that they have the resources that they need. So that's kind of what we do. It's kind of twofold. We have the referrals, and then we also respond to the scenes. That's kind of what our day-to-day looks like.
I'm excited to be a participant in this program because I do believe we have a mental health crisis in our country these days. And it's not to downplay anything, but you go into the hospital tonight with a heart issue and be on an operating table in 3 hours, 4 hours, but if you call somebody and say, I have a mental health crisis, they're like, our soonest appointment is December. And we need to get them to the help that they need sooner than that. Very appreciative of this program, so. Do we have any discussion? Deputy Mayor Resident.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'm very much in support of this. It's about our nation. It's great to see this and after we share the costs. One of the parts I was reading through in terms of the contract, it's a 2-year contract for the interlocal personnel. But it also looks like any party can, within the 90-day written notice, give termination. Are they still obligated to pay their portion of the full 2 years?
Once they terminate their portion of it, they give us 90 days, then we'll have to revisit the funding portion of it. But they can, it's a backup clause that all of our attorneys wanted. If something were to happen down the road, Carol Rosati did review the agreement there, and she was okay with that 90 days. She wanted to make sure that it was actually regressed back out. For some reason or another, I don't know if we wanted to have. But the other ones, yes, and then we would have to look at the funding thing. It is for 2 years right now. Like I said, we do have a grant that'll cover the third, we're hoping the fourth, but this agreement is just written for 2 years to get us started.
Which makes sense. It's just that knowing that we act on total agreements before.
That is a concern.
Also, how did the 30-30-30-10 get determined? Was it population based or was it calls based?
Calls for service. And we found that Wixom, White Lake, Walled Lake were all about the same number of calls for service. Wolverine Lake was substantially less. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Hillary, but the plan is for the social worker to spend time in each community each week, but they also go where they're needed the most. So, I know that Wolverine Lake and County Lieutenant this yet, or Walled Lake, their councils that will be in September, both have stated that they don't see any issues coming with it, and they understand the fact that they go where they're needed, and that's really what we want.
The communities represented here are comprised primarily of the Walled Lake and Sutherland School District, also some in the north and maybe a different district. But is there any coordination with social workers that are part of the special education programs in the school districts?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Not directly. We work with like our community resource officers within the school. So because we're, contracted with the police departments, we go where we're called by police. So if we do respond to a school because an officer wants us there, we can certainly coordinate with the school social workers, which is what we would likely do because they're always with the schools, but we're not directly linked with them.
It would be a live communication if there was
Yes.
a call.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Burns.
Councilmember Grella Fox.
I as well, I'm very in favor. I think we have a huge need. So I thank you all for what you do. Chief, thanks for getting this going and saying that. I personally appreciate you doing that. Just a couple questions as far as, kind of along the same lines as Councilman Prince. So do you work also with the youth assistance programs in the different communities at all?
Youth assistance is actually a very strong partner of ours. We do partner with them in a slightly different capacity because our Justice Initiatives team is actually comprised of 25 people embedded all throughout the justice system. Law enforcement is just a piece. So we have juvenile justice specific coordinators that will work with youth assistants, and we get referrals directly from them to do assessments and link kids early on. So those referrals will flow a little bit different. A lot of times if the co-responders have a juvenile justice related referral or a child that's at risk of juvenile justice involvement, we might work with our juvenile justice coordinators, and if youth assistance is already involved, we will pull them in. Youth assistance, as Greg knows, has two different functions. One, the diversion program through the circuit court, but they're also vet and schools. So yes, we've had a very strong relationship with youth assistance for 7 years.
And then, just the question about the split between the different communities. I'm surprised that White Lake is even in there, because they're considerably larger. I'm surprised their calls for service are high.
geographically, they're larger than ours. Population-wise, they're not a lot busier. And their calls for service are really not as high as ours are. So we're pretty much even across the board with White Lake. On a side note, White Lake used Wixom's contract to renegotiate their contract when they were in the contract negotiations with us. We are very similar to them, larger geographic area, but when it comes down to calls for service in the police department, they have the apartments in the high density areas, just like we do. No downtown area, that's the one big difference.
Well, not to jump ahead too much, my hope is that the calls go down. It's probably realistic, but I would support if those calls keep going up, that we have someone here just.
We do anticipate calls to go up at the very beginning, only because the officers will be reporting more things to the social workers. That's what we've seen in all of these other communities, that officers know that they're there to help. The resources that OCHN can bring to bear for some of these cases is a lot. So the resources they can bring, officers learn about it, so then they start making more and more referrals. Makes it harder on the poor ladies that have to catch the case, but in the long run, I think we're going to start to see a better resolution for the cases than what we're doing now, which is really just whatever we can do to control the scene and then getting out of there and hoping we don't have to go back. Because that's all we can really do as a police department. Or taking them to the hospital, which is the other thing.
So thank you.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Bingham. Mostly I want to say that, yeah, this is a very worthwhile program. I'm glad we're doing this. Mental health is a underappreciated issue that's just growing and growing every year. I was hoping you might be able to just, nothing too detailed, the one thing that was a big question, just an outline of, how long has it been going up, and is there hope that it'll go down?
I think there's always hope as long as we're addressing it. But has it been going up? Yes. I can tell you when I first started.
No, I know. How long has it been going up?
It's been going up for, it was back in the 80s when we started closing the facilities and taking them. When I first started, there was a Clinton Valley Center at Pontiac, and that was where we took people that were suffering mental health issues. Those were all closed. So then it was taken to the hospitals. And that's what we do to this day. And the hospitals do the best that they can. I had a gentleman in Bloomfield that we took over to St. Joe's. My officer was in the parking lot writing the report. The guy walked out of the ER and asked my officer to give him a ride back home. That's just how a lot of them are handled now. Thank God these people are here to help us now, because they can bring the resources of OCHN, and they're part of that community. So they can then help us get the person where it needs to be. The ER 9 times out of 10 is not the place where they need to be, correct?
Yeah.
They need to be gotten the help that they're really trying for. These folks, when they show up in the scene and they can start to do that, it's really quite incredible to watch the relationships that they build.
I'm sure, and thank you for initiating this and making this happen. It's good stuff. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt a resolution to approve an interlocal agreement between the city of Walled Lake, the city of Wixom, the village of Wolverine Lake, White Lake Township, and the Oakland Community Health Network for the mental health co-response team, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, chief, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you mind if I read something with you?
No.
Okay, it has a little
No,
bit of
please.
data on there, since we did not talk about that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, with that concludes the business portion of our meeting tonight. And that moves us to the second call to the public. I'll read those rules once again. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence, and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public, immediately after correspondence, shall be limited to agenda items only. person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless time is extended by the majority of vote of council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council. And all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. And I see we have our first speaker.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, our city administration. Great to see you as always. Lots of county updates. Been really busy with many things, so I figured we'd have to speak on a few of them. Last time we spoke, I know I mentioned we were starting budget hearings, so we just completed our couple weeks of budget hearings. So 22 different departments of the county have presented to us, and we are going through right now with amendments, motions to grant funding as appropriate. The chief already spoke extensively about mental health. Coming from that space, it's been something that's very near and dear to me, so we've done quite a bit to increase funding as much as we can. So thank you to our OCHN folks and everything that they've done for us. One other thing that chief did mention is we're also increasing peer-to-peer funding. So co-responders are huge. I'm a huge advocate of that. We're going to continue to increase funding there. One of the things the sheriff's department had presented to us is one of the challenges for his deputies is with all the tragedies that happen in the county, a lot of his deputies are suffering internally, and they don't necessarily have a really good mechanism to deal with that. So while co-responders are great, a huge asset for the community and for the responders at large, our responders are really suffering too. They don't have any way to deal with what they're seeing. And some of the things that they've seen and expressed, you can't undo. And I can only imagine, some of the heartbreaking stories that they've expressed. So that's something that's been very important on the list as well. We're also focusing on the prosecutor's office. You've seen some of the roll-up cases we've had here in the county, making sure that they have the resources to address them appropriately, and to make sure that they have staff. So it's very important. Infrastructure as well. We're continuing to try writing with them. We're trying to throw some more money at it as well. I know for many smaller communities, it's hugely helpful. So we're trying to increase it there as well. We just got our AAA bond rating renewed a couple weeks ago, so we're very proud of that. So I think we're doing a great job. As you know, we have a $1 billion budget that we're responsible for. I sit as the vice chair of finance, so it's something that I'm very proud of, and I think we're going to continue to keep up with the work. And we're just being responsible for how we're spending it, where we're spending it. So I look to you as a local government, if there's anything you'd like to see from the county that we aren't doing, or you'd like to do it a different way, please always feel free to reach out. I think we're doing a great job, but again, I always appreciate it. Road county updates. As you know, we're nearing the end of our project over on Grand River, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we have a light at the end of the tunnel here. I know our city manager and assistant city manager can speak to that as well. There is also a road commission for Oakland County is currently doing a study for upcoming improvement projects, and they are looking for feedback from the community to try to devise any areas that they can improve as far as a traffic safety standpoint. There is a survey out and open to the public that's open until the end of September. I know City of Wixom has already posted that, so please continue to spread the word as much as you can.
Sorry, I did notice because I tried to pull that up on my phone, it seems like it's map oriented, where the map wasn't loading correctly on my phone. It was like a very, very small sliver that you couldn't scroll across.
Okay, I will have to double check. When I first clicked on it, it was working. I don't know if there's a glitch or something happening, but thank you. I will definitely pass that information along. But just really want to encourage folks and the community who are maybe watching, please take advantage and share your feedback there. And the other thing I wanted to mention, property taxes, as you all know, are due at the end of this week. This is the end of August, so for those who haven't already taken care of it, we've had many conversations with our treasurer's office. We're having great compliance with the law. For those that are delinquent or having hardship issues, we don't want to foreclose on anybody as a county. Obviously, we want to see that. And our treasurer's office is setting up programs for those in hardship situations to work with them, look at payment programs, whatever we need to do to try to find and then last but not least, this is just coincidental to today. We did have some meetings with DTE a few weeks ago now. Prior to this mess of tonight, we really expressed our frustration with basically grid, what they're doing or lack thereof. We came to the table with the political and legislative directors, and they are aware of the situation. There's only so much we can do to hold our feet to the fire, but to the extent that we can, we're certainly trying to do that to the best of our ability. conditioner running, or your fridge isn't working, obviously, we appreciate that. One of the other concerns we expressed is the reimbursement situation. You know, I think right now, if you lose food or you're out of power, you get a $50 credit or some nominal fee, which again, as I expressed, doesn't really do much these days. I mean, $50 doesn't even cover half of one of those refrigerator. So they're aware of that too. Again, no promises have been made, but things that we are working on in the background. So hoping to come back to you with some updates. These are all things that are happening right now in the background. But yeah, lots of good stuff happening at the county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for the call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the second call to the public. Move on. City manager's comments. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, I'd like to congratulate the employees that are celebrating work anniversaries. It ranges from a low of 2 years on up to David Stewart and Jason Brittmeyer in the fire department at 16 and 18 years, Dean Caldwell in the PD at 17 years. So we want to say thank you to all those employees for their years of service and everything they contribute to our success day in and day out, and the service that we provide to the residents in the community. So we appreciate them. There's a hiring update that I provided with a variety of pieces of information there. Account clerk in the finance department, we've got a conditional offer of employment that's been made and accepted with a start date of September 9th. Fire department, there's a full-time firefighter that was recently hired and is in training or will be in training soon. And then 2 paid on-call firefighters were recently hired as well in the fire department. In the police department, recent patrol officer hire has taken place, and that's where they're in training. And then also 4 police service aides were recently hired in the PD as well. And then finally, the code enforcement officer that you're pretty in touch with, we made a conditional offer that was made and accepted, and also the start date for that particular new employee to be is going to be on September 9th as well. So I just wanted to point those successes out because it's something I remain grateful for, that we continue to have the ability to attract and hire new people to positions that are quality people and people that we're happy to have join our employment. And that reflects well on leadership from mayor and council, the quality of the community, the quality of the workplace, and we're just fortunate to have the success that we do, and I'm appreciative of it every time we have it. So hopefully we'll keep that streak going as we need to. The other couple of things I wanted to mention in terms of Commissioner Rahman's comments, I want to say thank you to him for his efforts with DTE and the county's efforts with DTE, and I feel your pain in terms of doing what you can with DTE when it comes to the challenges that are presented with the status of their investment in the state, in this community, and in other things. It's a problem that we continue to address here in Wixom, and we appreciate the commission and the county is involved with that as well. Finally, I just wanted to end with a thank you to council staff, to our Merge Live guy who's with us here tonight, to all the members of my executive team for your tolerance of the circumstances tonight and your tolerance of staying in touch with me, trying to figure out if we were going to do this council meeting tonight, your tolerance of less than ideal lighting, his tolerance with moving his equipment so that we could come up with some form of audio during this broadcast that we're trying to still keep on track. Really appreciate all the flexibility that everybody is putting up with, or providing and putting up with the circumstances tonight, so that we can still do this council meeting. We have a lot of stuff to take care of, and I appreciate everybody that's involved, all my department heads that sat around and talked with me about what we're going to do tonight. I appreciate that. Council for staying in touch with us and coming tonight. We appreciate it. So, thank you.
Assistant City Manager Benson.
I have no additional comments, sir.
Your horse, after all this. You've done thing?
I think I've said enough tonight.
Surely there's more thunder you can steal.
Well, there's a whole report in there. I'm happy to answer any questions on it if you have any.
We're done with thunder for tonight. Council comments. Councilmember Godchill.
No comments.
Councilmember Barrowman.
Best of luck to the DPW tomorrow. There's going to be quite a bit for you to clean up. Where are we at on this generator we bought for the building? Just curious.
How do you think the lights are on?
I don't think that's that
No, that's
generator.
probably
We're shooting for September 12th right now. For that. We're waiting on.
Just a few weeks to check.
Consumer, yeah, we're waiting on Consumers Energy to bring a line in for that particular generator. So if we can get it in, that's the date right now that we're shooting for.
We got the generator?
Won't need it again for a few years.
We have the
but,
generator, and, yeah, we're thankful for the generator that we do have because it is operating
Partial lighting. that we have.
partially right now.
Well, hopefully you can get to the DPW soon.
That's our goal tonight, yeah. I keep checking with DTE to see if we can get, we have a line that's crossing the road to the plant right now, so Ruben is still stuck in the wastewater treatment plant, gives his regards and apologies for not making it tonight. But, yes.
Just gotta jump.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Then my last question was just regarding the placement of the sidewalk in Granton, and that's the major.
Based on our last conversation, we're still working through the process of having it drawn out a little bit more, right? That was really the conversation, is where is it gonna be placed in relation to the building? So we're still working on it. I wanna make sure that we have a drawing that's representative and that, you know, takes into account our conversation, so not officially decided yet.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, sir. First of all, Steve, I appreciate your appreciativeness, of being here. The lower the lighting, the better I look, so that's why I have no problems there. Other than that, yeah, I hope all my Wixom neighbors, and myself included, have power soon. Other than that, kids are back to school, look out for the sprouts, and everybody enjoy the holiday. Thank you.
Councilmember Garland Fox.
So I would like to congratulate and thank all those celebrating work anniversaries. And then also a big thank you to Tim and his staff. I had my street tree, I don't know what happened to it, I think it was during the storm, but a couple of the limbs were hanging and the garbage truck kept hitting them, so they were just really dangling. I was afraid they were gonna fall on a kid or a car or something. And they came out immediately and took care of that, took the canopy up, so the snow plows probably wouldn't hit it, so I really appreciate how quickly they came out there. And then, I don't remember who, I think it was at audience participation, but what is the status of Grand River and Wixom up there? Is that almost done?
Trying to remember the timing of it. I looked at it, but it was a long time ago to see where that was at. I thought it was soon.
Because it doesn't look almost done.
Yeah. Do you have anything on that, Tim?
They're still shooting for the end of the month,
That's what I
September.
remember.
But,
The end of September?
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense.
yeah, they're hoping that, well, this week we were supposed to open up 12 Mile again and into Meyer. But there are a few things yet.
Oh, season.
It is.
Thank you. And yes, happy Labor Day. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just want to say the Hot Boots and Barbecue event was a great event, well attended, super weather again for the whole council series, so kudos to Parks and Rec. A lot of great comments about the band this year as well, great facts. The 8 pickleball courts at Government Town, the opportunity to play on, wow, those are first class. Really, really a good addition to Menard, and they're always proud of the evenings. Commissioner Rahman, thank you so much for your support on a couple of these things. One is the DTE issues. The power outage prior to this one, which only lasted about a minute, took out a lot of appliances again in our neighborhood. When I lost an EV charger, the next one neighbor lost an EV charger. Several neighbors lost their appliances. And it's just an ongoing thing with no answerability. I've appeared before the PSC to state our case. We find out the PSC is answerable to no one because it's governor appointed and not answerable to any legislature. So any help that you can give, we really appreciate it. And also this road survey, thank you for the reminder of that. We know Pontiac Trail between Wixom and Old Wixom has a big issue right now. And as the West End Commons gets constructed, we can have a lot more pedestrian traffic. We already have a lot more biker traffic now with the Michigan Airline Trail. So please give your feedback on the race through there. So it is a county road. A lot of people think it's a city road. It's a county road.
Thank you for that reminder.
We just want to say thank you to our 9 employees that are celebrating work anniversaries. Thank you for their service. The code enforcement officer and the account clerk, when they're hired, we can bring them in to introduce them to us at the meeting.
I'll defer to City Manager Brown on that. I don't know about the account clerk, but code enforcement officer, given that that is a sworn position, it would at a minimum be sworn to the clerk's office. But we could see about bringing them to a meeting.
I think that makes sense.
And the key to not losing power, I think, is buy a house generator. I bought a whole house generator over a year ago. I got 5 hours on it. So, and before then, the power would go off every time you blink your eyes. So I think that's the key, is to buy your whole house generator. You'll never lose power again. Yeah. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody.